Uncanceled Comedy Collective presents Top Censored News of the Week. It's time for Top Censored News of the Week, bringing you the stories the mainstream media refuses to cover. If they do cover them, they always do it in a very sloppy or dishonest way, and it's always on purpose. I'm here with Craig Pasa Jardula. We're going to get into the first story of the countdown. Coming in at number 3, the DNC crimes against democracy have been exposed as the mainstream media plays dumb. And if you guys haven't been paying attention the last couple days, we've had 2 big reveals. Actually, I'd say 3 big reveals at this point, but stuff we already knew, but now it's out there for the public to see. Let's start with this. This broke. We have Joe Biden diagnosed with aggressive form of prostate cancer. And, you know, shocking as it is, as so many of his fans and lovers of dignity and humanity and all the things he was propelled up to be, this champion of the people, which always, as we know, everybody watching our shows know it was a complete scam. But apparently this has been something they've covered up the whole time. But let's see how CNN breaks this story. We covered this a little bit on Tuesday, but I'm glad you're here with us, Craig, because we wanted to see how far they go with this theater piece. And when are people going to get tired of their constant lying about how things are happening and the spinning of information that we should have available to us, and we are entitled to this information as soon as they know. We need to know. Here's how CNN broke the story.
This is breaking news that came just about 2 hours ago, and it is now rippling through, television media, online. How are people consuming this? How is it reaching people?
And, I'm seeing some prostate cancer survivors, people who have lived with this disease, who have been through this, expressing support, both condolences, but also support and cheering Biden on as he faces this. The timing, Jessica, is just extraordinary. We know from the statement from his personal spokesman that Biden learned of the diagnosis on Friday.
Well, no, that's not true. Biden did not learn it on Friday. Biden told us back in 2022. Oopsie.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? It had to put on their windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
That's weird. That's weird that he told us that he and others have had cancer. And when this did first air, Craig, we remember the media, obviously, did their job. Their job is to spin, protect, deflect, and as we call gaslight us. As we said, why would he say that? Oh, he was just joking, or it was a mistake. So they just added to the list of all the jokes, mistakes. He didn't mean it. They call it a gaffe. None of that's true. We dug this up. This actually happened. Another thing that happened, Craig, is that you had doctors going on CNN trying to play, what do you call it? I guess damage control, but they gave it away. We had one we saw on Joe Scarborough. He brought a specialist on who said, you can't possibly not know this before Biden ran for president. There's no way not to know it. And all the checkups, the regular checkups. And then we come to find out that the treatment for cancer might induce symptoms of, as we saw time and time again, his mind going, this dementia thing kind of setting in, seems to have been, and this is, so we're trying to piece this together on the timeline, that was a reaction to the treatment he was receiving for cancer, and then everybody on his team and everybody in the media helped cover it up and deflected us when we were talking about the story. This is the behavior of the DNC. This is the behavior of the mainstream media. It's not a bad apple situation. It's an exposing of the functionality of how our politics, our politicians, and our political parties work hand in hand with the media to create these narratives. And when these things come out, there's not enough people saying, wait a minute, you guys are giving away the entire game plan right here. I want to get your thoughts on this, Craig, and then we'll get to the Bernie reveal, which happened at exactly the same time, which is part of this number 3 story.
Well, I think the Bernie reveal is way more significant than this right over here, right? This, to me, is nothing more than distraction porn. These sociopaths who control the media and, as the stenographers for the ruling class, do they really believe that we buy into this stuff? Everybody knew Joe Biden was demented. He couldn't even, he was walking around. He kind of gave credence to the thought process that there's a ruling class just pulling the strings, that those who appear to be in power, like the president of the United States, it's really not like the West Wing where it's Jebediah Bartlett making these decisions. They're being controlled. And, I don't think that people are buying into it right now. That this story to me is very much like the jet story, that the guitar jet that they wanted to give to Donald Trump. They want us talking about these things, so we're not talking about things that are much more important and significant. In other words, it's just in motion, the circus that is. They're going to use anything they can to talk about things that aren't important and keep the people distracted. Meanwhile, they've programmed the young people to think that this stuff eventually, when they get to a certain age, is really true, and they should put credence in it and talk about it. No, there's a lot more things that are like what Megyn Kelly said, the number one story forever. No, it's not. It's not even an important story. The number one story is there's still a genocide going on in Gaza every single day. There's murder taking place. And that's the big story, that we're, the fact that we're going along with it and we're standing behind a genocide, that's the story right now that they don't want to ever talk about whatsoever. So that's how I view this whole situation.
Well, absolutely. And I agree with you. And the reason why we let in with the cancer story is because we've been trained to look at this and go, okay, let's blame the bad guy, the Jake Tapper, let's beat up on him because he's the unique person that got this wrong, without looking closer at, like I said earlier, Craig, this is the functionality of how the system works. So this is another sign of how they all collude together, and this is how we get our information.
He wrote a book, right? Didn't get an award or something for it too, as well? I mean,
released the book.
These people rub it in your face, like, and I think they have to understand, and they probably don't, these sociopaths. They think they're fooling everybody because they think they're better than everybody, and we're all just a bunch of useless idiots. We're not fooled by their stupid games. We all knew that Joe Biden was demented and he couldn't put together a sentence, and he was just a puppet. More than anything, he was just a puppet. That's what everybody took from this whole situation, and that's why they buy into the whole Donald Trump outsider, because they want a hero to come save them from what normally is.
That's correct. And the big point there being that when they conduct themselves this way, every single time, democracy gets compromised. So we do not live in a democracy. This isn't a fluke or a one-timer, or Jake Tapper who just became narcissistic and wanted to sell a book. He's part of a functioning system that takes democracy away from us and then tells us that somebody else, that Putin is taking it away, or someone else is taking it away from us, when they in fact are the ones not allowing us to go through that process. Bernie Sanders, and this is the big one, the big reveal, Bernie Sanders tells us this is the functionality and he's as clear as he's ever been about it. And again, we talked about this one on Thursday, and I want your feedback on this. This is going to be, he said a lot. He went on this podcast and he said a lot.
I listened to your whole segment. So
it was one of those things I had to get off my chest. What we need to do is have this discussion. We had to keep having this discussion because our viewers who know better. That's why they watch our shows, and we give you guys that credit that you know what's going on. We got to remind people and give them the historical context of what Bernie is talking about, that this thing has been a problem this entire time. And we know firsthand because we were in the streets with him in 2016 when he was.
I really tell you that's what I took. That was the first step of what we were doing. You were calling out for what it is. We've witnessed this before. We saw it. We have to explain to the people who haven't been there before, don't know what's going on, what exactly happened. But now we have to go through the process too, as well. I think too, as well as discussing it from an objective point of view. On the radio show the other day, there's still people who will sell to me, Matt, regardless of everything, knowing everything that you called out on the show Tuesday, right? Like, we discussed these things. They know all that, but yet they would still look at Bernie Sanders, right, as the lesser of two evils, and the whole system, the establishment, as an actual institution where there's power with these people and they can make these decisions on the benefit of the normal of the working class. They can't. Everything that we see in front of us, everybody is controlled. So I mean, we have to discuss why I think, talk about it objectively, because people will say, well, it's the lesser of two evils, Matt. And he even said in this whole thing, and that's the thing you got to remember is that somebody told him to stay on to that sticking point, that you did what you had to do because it's just a choice between the two. The most important thing is we don't want them being mad between the choice of the two. We want them thinking that there's a choice between the two, and it's really just one, but a choice between the two, so they stay in that mentality. Yeah. So we really have to have a discussion objectively, and then we have to set standards. We have to explain why we walked out and why you shouldn't vote for that Democratic Party, regardless of what Bernie says and what the establishment says and what society says, that you have to pick between the two. It's going to come down to two, Matt. We got to choose one of the two. The hell we do. We have to set, it's so funny because Lawrence O'Donnell, who I can't stand, right, is the one who made a point which says at one point you have to withhold your vote. What is that line in the sand, Matt, that it should be? That if you're not going to have a democratic process, regardless or not, if Hillary Clinton would be better than Donald Trump, we're not going to vote for you. At the very least, you need to have a democratic process because that's in your name. That's what you're preaching. That's what the marketing is. So if at any point, no matter, even if Donald Trump was going to bomb Gaza twice as much as Joe Biden, which he ain't because they're working hand in hand there, but let's say he was argumentatively, if they are going to thwart the democratic process, you can't vote for them. And I think a lot of people are already there, and more people are getting there now from the right. So we have to explain that after we set those standards, and then we got to present the solution and move forward. What is it? And a lot of people bag on me for my looking into the Libertarian Party. We got to present the solution and move forward. We have to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? So I think what you did, and I know I'm rambling off because I got all this from listening to you talk about it, because we have to call it out for what it is so people can understand what we went through. But then we have to go through all those steps after. I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
No, absolutely. Let's look at it. If you guys miss it, this is Bernie on the Andrew Schultz podcast, where he tells us exactly how the Democratic Party takes away our democracy, exactly how it works. And it's been functioning this way for years and years and years. And we saw it firsthand in the streets in 2016. And a lot of people don't know that this is something he's known the whole time. And he actually admits it right here. Here's one of the clips from that.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement, where your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the...
wow. Okay.
That was just, they were sitting there. We had a lot of young people. We had people of color, and they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
It's kind of interesting to that note is during this election, the podcast space, which the Democrats largely avoided, they feel had some influence in the election, and they started to label us the podcast bros and said that we were sexist and we were racist and bigoted. It's almost like it's the exact same strategy to get you out of there.
Yeah, that's what the liberal elite China does. They run away. Look, again, I would hope that everybody who's watching the program is that we as a nation have got to end all forms of bigotry, right?
Yes.
That I start off as a basic assumption.
Unless it's to your close friends, right?
Yeah, whether it's racism or sexism, homophobia or xenophobia, whatever it is. And liberal Democrats talk about that all the time. And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on?
So I'll stop it there. Listen, this is exactly the game plan we've been saying forever. He sounds like, I guess you would say, a Trumper right there. The reason he sounds like a Trumper is because a lot of people don't know this, that weren't around in 2016. He was the version of Trump for the progressives. He was the guy actually taking on the establishment, actually doing a class warfare, not being blindsided by this weaponization of diversity, weaponization of what, and he spells this whole thing out right here. So this was I believe it was a real call to action. And then he obviously got captured, and then he was told to get in line and tell us to vote for Hillary. And he's never really talked like this ever since. So he's basically telling us that fight the oligarchy tour that's happening right now is all bullshit, Craig, because all they talk about on the tour is get rid of Trump, 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 Trump. Nothing about this, nothing about the party itself is using our emotions against us. It's doing these things. And we know it. We've been through it. So not only do we have to remind people that forgot, we have to educate people that didn't know it happened. We also have to make a call to action to people on the Trump side now who are falling for the same thing we fell for, and warn them this is how you get captured. You get taken off your game when you start idolizing someone and thinking they're going to change they're going to fix everything and they're going to do everything right. And they're playing a little game of chess. We were the original. I want people to know this. You and I and the people in the streets for Bernie in 2016, not 2020, not after, in 2016, the people in the streets, we were the original people that gave the excuse that our leader was playing a 5D chess, a 6D chess. And we fell for that. So we're here to warn people that are falling for that now. It's all theater. It's not real. And Bernie finally is talking about this, and he hasn't said a word about it for years.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I just often wonder, like, there was a time when Bernie seemed to have flipped a switch, right? There was a insinuation that Bernie Sanders was taken in a locker room and was told, hey, enough is enough. Shut up, get in line, back the establishment. Otherwise, we're going to have Jane thrown in jail for this whole Fugazi, scheme they tried to put on her at one point. Remember, for taking money or not filling out the process properly when it came to getting money for a college fund or something. Like I know it came down supposedly the Donald Trump pipeline or surrounding his people, but it was like a message from the establishment: get in line. That's it. And then he got in line. You know what I'm saying? And now here he is peeking his head out again because he was the class candidate in 2016. In 2020, he got all caught up. And once again, it's the theater. You don't know what's going on, but the whole Liz Warren thing and, the Donald Trump is the most racist, sexist president of all time. And he became a culture war critter. And then Joe Biden is my friend. But I think in 2020, we were still kind of interested to say, well, listen, Bernie Sanders capitulated to the establishment in 2016. If he's ready to step up and say no more and really take them on and take the gloves off and go after it, then we were all going to be like, okay, let's see, right? You know what I'm saying? We were still kind of peeking in the door. But after that, we were completely done after Joe Biden is my friend. And now he is just held in disgust. And I think it is important for people to understand why. And the scarier part, too, is as well why it's great that you're focusing on this today and, establishing what's happening. Is that they're going to try to do it again. There's a bunch of people, like you said, who don't know what happened in 2016. And we can tell them. And we can just say for sure that this guy at the end of the day is not going to be there when we need him most. In fact, he does more damage than good right now. And he is not the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Moving on to the number 2 story. Coming in at number 2. The WHO Pandemic Treaty has now been adopted by 173 countries since the 78th session of the World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland just occurred. This is an ongoing problem, Craig. We've been talking about the Pandemic Treaty, but it keeps inching itself further and further towards a future that we are arriving in where most of the world will be bowing down to this organization that nobody voted for, and they're going to be calling the shots on our health forever, because nobody gives up power. It has to be taken from them. So you give the power away, you're never getting it back. So we're seeing this happen in real time. This was the UK
I was going to say you should have plandemic in air quotes because it's just so people know it's a pandemic treaty.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a typo. Let me.
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic.
No, I was, but I'm saying it was a typo. There's my air quotes. Actually, let me do that. That's actually a good idea. We'll go ahead and do the accidental quotes. Good call on that one. Yeah, my bad.
It's not your bad because a lot of people would agree with it. They would agree that it was a pandemic of sorts, and you know what I'm saying. And
I accidentally put an L in there. That my mistake. Didn't mean to misreport that. It was a pandemic. Google and YouTube know this. It was a pandemic. So I'll air quote it on the thing just so people know that it was a typo. So there it is. This pandemic treaty has been now adopted by 173 countries. Here's a little clip from the thing in Geneva. Here we go.
The resolution is adopted.
Yay! Good news. Everybody applaud. Everybody applaud. And here we go. This is from Concerned Citizen. The 73 countries, they've agreed to this. This means the globalist lunatics will be able to declare a pandemic whenever they see it, superseding national sovereignty and determining more lockdowns, masking, and of course, mandatory vaccines. Vigilant Fox chimes in. Oh, look at this. Singapore just made it a crime to refuse a vaccination, threatening jail time and massive fines for saying no. Strangely, that law passed right after Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab paid a visit. This is how it works. They have to go around and campaign for each country to sign on. And so they've been doing this kind of successfully. As we said, 173 countries have said yes to this. They've bowed down. They took the bait or whatever it was. They took the bribe or the blackmail, whatever it is. They're going door to door and they're getting people to sign up. Craig, there is good news. There's a lot of countries not on that list. I hope, I'm going to say yet, because I hope it's not yet. I hope it's just they stay off the list. But here's what we know who has not signed. This is from Citizen Go. Here's the countries who have not signed onto the treaty. And there we are. And this is good. This might have something to do with RFK Jr. and Trump. Who knows how long we're going to hold out on it, but we have not signed it. China, Russia, India, Brazil, South Africa. So all these countries, I'm going to go to the next page.
See, that's part of the whole Texas two-step. Oh, Trump, we're not on it. We didn't sign that. But they know down the road that Israel and the United States will go and get on it eventually. They'll just use the whole fake, oh, we have a Democrat there. Gavin Newsom is now signed on to the pandemic treaty. So they'll get it on there because they're the ones who kind of perpetrated it to begin with in the first place. Like the United States had a big part of putting together that pandemic treaty almost out of the gate on the heels of the COVID. So they don't have it right now on the schedule. They don't have the next pandemic planned until I think 2031. So by then, a Democrat will be in there, will be signed, and our sovereignty will be handed on over to the World Economic Forum. They'll get us there.
So you're saying this is they're playing the long game.
Of course. Right now, they're getting the other countries in there. That's the framework done. They're sweeping up the small ones, and now they're going to get the big ones at the very end. I don't know where China and Russia will stand on it, but I know the United States. Is Cuba on there? Who knows?
They might have signed on. I didn't.
They might have. Suckers. So I don't know. I don't trust Diaz-Canal. I know Brazil's on that thing. Go put the list up again. Who's not on it, please?
This is who's not on it. Okay.
Because it's in alphabetical order, right? So I mean, is Brazil's not on it? Wow. Woo! Look at that, Lula holding out. We know Modi and all right. The BRICS nations are not on there, right?
That's right.
The BRICS nations are not on there. That's why they won't do it. They're not going to let the World Economic Forum, okay, Turkey, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, all right, Bahrain.
Yeah, and the last one.
Go back to the first page again one more time.
Yeah.
Egypt, Mexico, and Argentina. Wow, interesting.
But like you're saying,
all Europe's on there.
Yeah, all of Europe is on there. It's pretty bad.
Is there anybody from Europe not in Europe? What's the second page? Give me a European country. Come on. No. No, all of Europe's on there.
Oh, they got him.
All of Europe's on there.
That's
they got him. United States will come around. United States is a closer, like journalism.
Yeah.
The horse.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that for you guys, as we always do. Time for the number one story. Here we go. Coming in number one for top censored news of the week. Mainstream media pushes embassy killings as anti-Semitism, while the IDF attack on EU diplomat story gets silence. What was this attack? Well, you guys, did you not hear about this attack? It happened literally less than 24 hours ago. And yet now we got this news story we have to cover at the embassy in DC and the killings that happened there, which everyone's talking about now. So why don't we back up a few hours before that and show you guys the real breaking news that we should all be covering right now. And this was tweeted out. There is Adam Media. Breaking: Israel opens fire on Europeans. Israeli soldiers, he has in quotes, fired upon a European diplomatic delegation at the entrance of Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank. Israel is a terrorist pariah state. Witness their true colors. And here is the videos Adam shared when the firing was in process, and they had to literally run for their lives. Here you go. These are EU diplomats.
Did they kill any? How many people?
No, we have not seen any. There were no deaths in them. And so the IDF immediately issues this response. And you know how honest they've been in responding to these things. Here we go.
Including Belgium, Spain and Italy have demanded an explanation from Israel after its military fired on a diplomatic delegation in the occupied West Bank. Well, no injuries were reported in the incident, which happened in the flashpoint city of Jenin. The Israeli military said shots were fired into the air after the delegation, which reportedly included diplomats from Britain, Belgium, Spain, Italy and Canada, strayed from a previously agreed route. It said the soldiers who'd fired the warning shots had not realized they were diplomats. The Israeli army said it regretted the inconvenience caused.
They didn't know they were diplomats, Craig. They thought they were Hamas, because it's hard to tell, because Hamas likes to hide behind civilians and apparently diplomats. So it can really confuse those IDF soldiers. And they must have just been honestly confused about that. So this story, as you can imagine, because and now there's no deaths reported, but because they're EU diplomats, they're going back home and they're enraged about this. And it does change public perception if this story gets more coverage. So why isn't this story getting more coverage? Well, because we have another story that broke, which is way, way more important than this. And I should add, way more important than all of Israel's crimes they're committing on a daily, hourly basis, as we know that every 10 minutes, one child gets killed in Gaza. None of that ever makes the news, but apparently this does make the news here. The arrest of this shooter. There was basically two. Okay, so here's the story. You guys heard 2 Israeli embassy staff were shot dead outside the Capitol at the Jewish Museum in Washington. This is the arrest of the guy who apparently did the shooting. He's the suspect who hung around and waited to be arrested and then shouted out, "Free Palestine." Let's watch the actual arrest taking place.
No.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
And then, of course, they needed an immediate response from the White House. Pam Bondi, late into the early hours of the evening last night, she issued this statement, and you can see the look on her face because this is the worst thing ever that has ever happened, ever, at least as long as Trump's been president. And you can tell because she had to talk about this at midnight last night.
Mayor, thank you. Chief,
Thank you. Ambassador, our hearts go out to you and your staff. I spoke to the President of the United States multiple times tonight on behalf of the President. His prayers are with all of us, all of the Jewish community, everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case. We'll be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe, especially tonight our Jewish community. Our prayers go out. We have the FBI. All of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts. We will follow the law. And this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent.
Yeah, pretty serious there, Craig. Now, look, there's a lot of people talking about this possibly being a false flag operation. Before we get to our opinions on that, because again, I guess we can definitely add some commentary. I just want to put this up here first. This is the reaction we saw. There's Caitlin Johnstone. She's been obviously champion of the anti-war movement for years. 2 Israeli embassy staff getting shot in Washington, D.C. is less newsworthy than tens of thousands of Palestinians being killed in Israel's genocide land grab. It is less important. It deserves less attention. It's not the main story. Israel's genocide in Gaza is the main story, as we said earlier. Here's another one. This is Bess D. Marks. 20,000 children dead. Violence is okay. 2 Israeli embassy staff members dead. Violence is not okay anymore. Cabral says the entire Western media is about to act more outraged over the deaths of 2 Israeli embassy workers than they ever have over the tens of thousands of innocent civilians killed in Palestine. And then this tweet goes on even further. Fuck Israel, fuck Israeli diplomat, fuck an Israeli embassy. And that's an extreme reaction, but the anger is rightfully there, because how do we not have these press conferences happening daily about the crimes committed by the IDF, by Israel, by our taxpayer money going to these crimes every single day? I like this from Z Squirrel. This is the name of the guy. His name is that was killed. Yaron Lesinsky. He was not even Jewish. He was a crazed Christian Zionist freak who volunteered to serve in the Israeli rape army and then did propaganda for them at the embassy. This makes calling this an anti-Semitic attack doubly deranged, and actually the height of anti-Semitism, by conflating Israel and non-Jewish Israelis with all Jews. And of course, the entire media and political class is doing it with utter glee so they can launder genocidal Zionist propaganda. Craig, what's your thoughts so far on this developing story?
Well, there's so much to unpack today. I tried to download this video where I caught a little bit of Fox News right after they just did a report, Fox and Friends in the morning. I forgot the tall, slender, black, older woman. She's very well-spoken. She did this rant and this rave, right? Now, before I get to her rant and rave, I just want to say that whether this was a false flag, an inside job, or happened naturally, to what degree, I think it was... Steve Poikonen from the morning show, from AM Wake Up and Slow News Day, he used to talk about it all the time. They don't need the fully MK Ultra people anymore. Everybody's so on edge. Everybody's so drugged up. Not everybody, but a lot of people are. That they only have to locate and find these people and give them a nudge. So it could be to any degree of an inside job, a false flag, or something that just happened naturally. Some guy got really pissed off and decided to do this because he's sick and tired of what he sees in Gaza. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference, because the ruling class and the oligarchy, whatever you want to call them, they're going to use this to take advantage and exploit the situation so they can push the divide and conquer tactics. There's a they and there's an us. I mean, it was mind-boggling the way this Fox News reporter today was just talking about it and separating us again. Once again, anti-Semitism. And I know what it's designed to do. When they start talking about how this is so awful, and just like this guy Squirrel was putting up this guy's actual history and what he is, and not even Jewish, he was a Zionist who was whatever the case may be. It just sucks because he is dead, he was killed, and now both sides are going to demonize each other And like I said on Fox Friends, they were talking about how anti-Semitic this was and how awful it was. Yet the people who've been following and think that the Gaza situation, the story, what's going on there, the biggest story, like Caitlin Johnson, just spoke out, knows that those couples, that happens 50 times a day, every single day in Gaza. 100 people almost get whacked out, killed, disgusting, and they're not even talked about at all. So just seeing this today and watching the divisiveness, right? How divisive she was. There's a they hate us. So instead of looking at the ruling class, we're looking at now Arabs. They hate us. Why are we even questioning that? She says they hate us. She's talking about a they and us, and Donald Trump is playing all into this. I mean, it's just it's some scary times. It's almost like they want a race war right now.
Yeah, and these tweets that we shared, this is anticipation of what's happening. We understand this game plan. Like you said, whatever degree it's a false flag, 1% false flag, 100%, or anywhere in there. This is the reaction we knew we were going to get. So those tweets went out immediately. We grabbed them, woke up today, and this is exactly, they were 100% right. Here's Dana Bash on CNN. I'm going to give you guys a little taste of what the news cycle is going to be like for the next several weeks. And the fury and the rage against people who are only acting out and saying the words "Free Palestine" because they're trying to incite violence. I kid you not. That's the news story today on CNN. Free Palestine equals violence. How convenient.
Heard the alleged killer saying "Free Palestine." We hear that on the streets. We hear that on college campuses. And there are a lot of people who have been worried that has been turned into a call to arms and a call to action and violence.
Yes.
Others claim that it's not. What do you think now that we have seen this?
I think there's no question, whatever its initial intent and whatever people were saying initially or meant it has become a call for violence, and not violence against Israelis, which is wrong, but violence against Jews. And anybody who tries to separate the two and try to say, I'm just against Palestine, I'm just, against Israel's policies in Palestine or in Gaza, and I'm not anti-Semitic. This was anti-Semitism, pure and simple.
So she's saying if anybody dares try and separate the two, we just showed you when they're not separated. We just showed you a guy who, by the way, the suspect in the double murder, hung around, waited to get arrested, and conveniently yelled out "Free Palestine." We just showed you how it works. Those two things are inseparable. Murdering Jews and saying "Free Palestine" are, for now on, inseparable things. So anyone who dares try to separate them, we're going to keep playing that video over and over of that guy saying "Free Palestine" as he's going away in cuffs. And that's going to shut you up even harder. That's what's happening right now, Craig. This is absolutely disgusting. This is clearly, obviously, this is not journalism. This is propaganda. This is defending this murderous, tyrannical, military, illegal occupation, apartheid state we've been funding for decades and decades. And yeah, we've moved into this next stage of war. The war is not, there's not a war in Gaza. It's an annihilation in Gaza. The war is between free speech and humanity versus the oligarchy and the psychopaths that actually run this planet. That's the real war. And it looks like we just kicked it in to the next gear here.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, there's not much to say.
There's not much else. Yeah.
There's not much to say. And it is scary because like I said, you see this and you got to think about what's the overall plan. I think that's why this is so crazy that this happened today, and the guest that's coming on is just like such the appropriate guest to talk about this, because I think too, on the heels of the Kash Patel and Dan Bongino saying that Epstein killed himself, right? So confidently, not even like saying, I think they probably killed himself, my personal opinion, you know what I'm saying, but saying it so confidently as if they're out there to push the agenda and the team sports mentality, people go along with it. Still, more America first people are pushing back against that, and they see something bigger. They understand that Donald Trump is protecting an elite. He acted like he was going to fight them and drain the swamp, but we also knew, a lot of us, that they would never allow him to do that because they would kill him, just like they killed Kennedy, and they would do that. That's how much power and control they have, But, yeah, I mean, what is the overall plan? Are they this October 7th and yesterday with this slaying, this killing, this murdering? Were they inside jobs? Were they plans? People talk about it all the time. I say it doesn't even matter, right? We just know that the ruling class is going to try to move the people, pit them against each other. Orange Revolution. Orange Revolution.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a moment. I'm going to go out on a limb, Craig, before we end Top Censored News here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, that was a false flag. Absolutely a false flag.
What? Doesn't even matter, Matt Weinglass. They're going to use it the same way. Fake
because
or
this
real?
This is not how people behave that are in the Free Palestine movement. It's also not how killers behave.
You're inside a psycho jihadist head. They hate us for our freedoms, Matt. They said so on Fox and Friends.
Of course, they told us on Fox and Friends, so we have to believe that, of course. I'm just saying this type of person doesn't actually exist. We've seen this time and time and time again, where the infiltrations of the rallies, of the peace movements, they get infiltrated. They start, you can tell, we zoom in on these people. They're not, they're pretending to be Palestinian protesters, and then they do some psychotic shit, like they start like spray painting the wrong slogan, like Hamas all the way. Like they start doing stuff that isn't in the language. They start jumping up and down like psychopaths. They start starting fires.
It could be just somebody behind this, and the FBI and the CIA looking in, just watching everybody's tweets and everything, and the AI flagging it, like, oh, look at this nut job here. He was abused by his parents. You know what I'm saying? He's really confused, whatnot. He's on these medications. Oh, let's just give him a little push. Let's act like somebody else and give him that little bling. You don't even need to fully MK Ultra people today. They're all messed up anyways. It's got to give him a little push.
Well, some say
who knows we'll get out of it. Maybe the FBI agents were betting. I bet he would kill 4 people. No, he only killed 2 people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, this is the guy. There he is. Christian Zionist, served on the IDF. He dedicated his life to Israel and Zionism. Yeah.
Was that his fiance? I mean, listen, I don't care. I feel bad. It's sad that this kid had to get whacked like that. You know what I'm saying? It's terrible. But it's really also being used to show like these people like, all right, you're literally going to make such a huge fuss about this when they're doing this 50 times a day in Palestine and on our dime, and you're going to completely ignore it.
Yeah.
This is the perfect thing to set people off and putting people in corners. Watch the rallies the next several days too as well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, they're going to say, you're crying about this little kid who was in the IDF. He was a Zionist American. He deserved to die. You're going to see that out there. And then the right using that. Look at this extreme. They hate us. They hate us for our freedoms.
And that's been
Top Censored News of the Week.